every state, for every carrier, there is a 2-year look back, some a little less, some with some provisions based off of the existing policy or a particular state. But generally speaking, this is how it works. If I write a deal today, and let's say it's first day full coverage with any carrier, just throw one out there, imagine, and the client dies within the first 2 years at some point, the state grants the privilege to the carrier to investigate that claim to make sure that the person insured actually was insurable at the time of sale before paying out a death claim. Now, why do they do that? Because people lie, newsflash. People also, whether purposefully or not, misrepresent. They forget about that touch of COPD that their doctor told that they had, right? And so what happens is that because these are simplified issue, meaning that there's no medical exams done, there's no blood withdrawn, pee in a cup, all that stuff. There's a cursory look at the health on the Medical Information Bureau and prescription check. It's not completed information. It's very incomplete. About half of the information is there unfilled. And so if they die within the first 2 years, they're going to thoroughly investigate all records medically associated with the client to see if there was something that should have shown up at that time of the client's death. And if it does, then their premise is, hey, had we known this information, we wouldn't have granted this policy. And because this has fallen within the 2-year contestability, we're going to refund your premiums plus some interest equivalent of a guaranteed issue plan. And the client's not fully protected. So do I like that? No. But it's the way it is, because what this does from an insurance standpoint is prevent or minimizes what's called adverse selection. You guys remember that taking your test. Adverse selection is where an insurance company has a provision for underwriting that it has to meet to be profitable, but the underwriting standards don't sustain, and they write a bunch of risk that's too high. And what may happen is that the insurance company folds and people lose the ability to even collect on their insurance, right? Worst case scenario. So this is a provision instituted by the government to protect against adverse selection. It sustains the insurance model. So we have to go through this whole routine before we get into contestability and how it relates to replacement to understand every single carrier contests claims, even the ones that say they don't. They'll say for saying we pay death claims in 24 hours. BS. Only if it's non-contestable. I assure you, if they die within 24 hours within the first 2 years, any company is going to say, we got to see medical records before we pay. That's the norm. Okay. So understand, as frustrating as this may sound to you, and I understand why it would, I certainly feel the same way. Every carrier does it. They're allowed to. It's a privilege granted by the state.